The Jew of Malta by Christopher Marlowe. Characters, Summary, Analysis. Hello and welcome to the discourse. Christopher Marlowe's The Jew of Malta is a provocative and darkly satirical play that blends tragedy, black comedy, and revenge drama. At its core is Barabas, a wealthy Jewish merchant whose life is upended when the Christian governor of Malta seizes his fortune to pay off the Ottoman Empire. Barabas responds with ruthless vengeance, orchestrating an intricate web of deceit, manipulation, and murder. His villainy, flamboyant and unapologetic, is both horrifying and captivating, offering a chilling embodiment of Machiavellian cunning. The play's dark humor and critique of religious hypocrisy highlight the corruption that festers beneath the surface of all institutions, Christian, Jewish, and Muslim alike. Written around 1589-1590, the play was first performed by Lord Strange's men, with Edward Allen likely playing Barabas. Though popular on stage in its time, it was only published posthumously in 1633. Set in Malta, a Mediterranean island caught between Christian and Muslim powers, the play mirrors the geopolitical anxieties of the Elizabethan age, particularly the fear of the expanding Ottoman Empire. England, having expelled its Jewish population in 1290, still harbored deep fascination and prejudice toward Jews. Marlowe taps into these sentiments but also subverts them by portraying Christian and Muslim characters as equally ruthless. Marlowe may be using Barabas' theatrical excess to critique both religious dogma and the revenge-driven genre itself. The play opens with a prologue by a Machiavellian figure, signaling the amoral, politically charged world the audience is about to enter. Characters of the Jew of Malta. Barabas is the protagonist and anti-hero of the play. He is a wealthy Jewish merchant in Malta. Cunning, vengeful, and unapologetically greedy, he embodies Machiavellian ruthlessness. When the Christian governor seizes his wealth, Barabas plots elaborate schemes of revenge, manipulating friends and enemies alike. Abigail is Barabas' virtuous daughter, who initially aids her father but later converts to Christianity, disillusioned by his cruelty. Farnese is the Christian governor of Malta, who represents hypocritical authority. He confiscates Jewish wealth to pay Ottoman tributes while preaching morality. Ithamor is Barabas' Turkish slave, an accomplice in revenge. A morally bankrupt figure, he revels in violence and ultimately betrays Barabas for money. Balamira is a courtesan who seduces Ithamor to extort money from Barabas. Lodovic is Farnage's son and Matthias is his close friend. They are young Christian rivals vying for Abigail's love. Barabas manipulates them into killing each other, showcasing his skill in exploiting human weaknesses. Calumet is the son of the Ottoman Sultan. He demands tribute from Malta. Martin del Bosco is the Spanish vice admiral who convinces Farnese to resist Ottoman demands rather than pay tribute. Friar Giacomo and Friar Bernardine are two corrupt Christian friars who compete for Barabas' supposed conversion and wealth. Their greed and hypocrisy exemplify Marlowe's satire of religious institutions. Machiavel is the prologue speaker. He is a stand-in for Machiavelli. He introduces the play's themes of amoral pragmatism, framing Barabas as a product of a corrupt world. Summary of the Jew of Malta. It is a 5-act play opening with a prologue. The play opens with a prologue delivered by the spirit of Machiavel, who declares his enduring influence and sets the stage for a tragedy of a Jew, Barabas, whom he claims to have helped achieve his immense wealth. Act 1, Scene 1 introduces Barabas, a wealthy Maltese Jewish merchant counting his vast fortune. Two merchants arrive with news of his extensive, valuable merchandise. Barabas delivers a monologue expressing his preference for being hated as a rich Jew rather than pitied in Christian poverty, associating Christianity with malice and pride. 3 other Jews of Malta enter, informing Barabas of an approaching Turkish navy and a summons to the Senate. Barabas, in an aside, reveals his selfish nature, hoping to avoid any personal difficulties while suspecting the Turks are there to exact tribute. Act 1, Scene 2 shows Salim Calumet with his bashos demanding 10 years of unpaid tribute from Farnese, the governor of Malta. Farnese requests time to collect the money. After the Turks leave, the Jews of Malta arrive. Farnese explains Malta's inability to pay and demands a contribution from each Jew. When they protest, he decrees that the entire tribute will be taken from them, with half their estates confiscated, or they will be forcibly converted to Christianity and lose everything. Barabas' entire estate is confiscated for his resistance. He vehemently protests the injustice, but Farnese and his knights dismiss his pleas, declaring Jews infidels and converting Barabas' mansion into a nunnery. The three Jews try to comfort Barabas, but he remains inconsolable until his daughter Abigail enters. Barabas reveals he has a hidden fortune in his house, marked with a cross, and instructs Abigail to feign conversion to Christianity to retrieve it from the nunnery. Act 1, Scene 3 shows Matthias pondering Abigail's sudden conversion, while his friend Lodovic suggests they both visit her, unbeknownst to Matthias that Lodovic has similar intentions. Act 2, Scene 1 opens at night, with Barabas lamenting his misfortunes. Abigail appears above, throwing bags of gold and jewels to him from the nunnery. Barabas is overjoyed, now believing himself completely happy. Abigail warns him that the nuns will soon awaken and returns inside. Act 2, Scene 2 introduces Martin del Bosco, the Spanish vice admiral, who arrives in Malta with a cargo of slaves. Farnese, hesitant to buy them due to the treaty with the Turks, is persuaded by Del Bosco to break the alliance. Del Bosco promises Spanish aid against the Turks, convincing Farnese to keep the tribute money and purchase the slaves. Farnese resolves to fight the barbarous, misbelieving Turks, valuing honor above gold. Act 2, Scene 3 Barabas, having recovered much of his fortune and purchased a new mansion, plans revenge against Farnese and his son Lodovic. He boasts of his ability to deceive. Lodovic enters, seeking permission to visit Abigail. Barabas subtly implies Abigail's availability and feigns a conversion to Christianity, while his asides reveal his true intentions to kill Lodovic and burn the nunnery. Barabas purchases the slave Ithamor. Matthias and his mother Catherine enter. Barabas secretly invites Matthias to see Abigail, then subtly misleads Catherine about his conversation with Lodovic. Once alone, Barabas instructs Ithamor in cold cunning, recounting his own evil deeds, which Ithamor eagerly reciprocates with tales of his cruelty to Christians. Barabas promises Ithamor wealth of his loyalty. At Barabas' house, he orders Abigail to entertain Lodovic as if in love. Barabas then pretends to Matthias that Lodovic is imposing himself on Abigail, inciting Matthias to anger. Later, he tells Lodovic that Matthias has shown his death over Abigail. Barabas forces Abigail to feign love for Lodovic, claiming it's no sin to deceive a Christian. Abigail is distraught. Barabas then tells Matthias that Abigail now belongs to him and that Lodovic has gone to tell Catherine, expecting her anti-Judaic views to cause her grief. Abigail laments her father's malicious scheming. Ithamor takes Abigail inside, and Barabas plots to set Matthias and Lodovic against each other. Act 3, Scene 1 introduces Palamira, a courtesan, complaining about a lack of suitors. Pilia Borgia, her visitor, enters with silver stolen from Barabas. Ithamor then enters, boasting of setting Matthias and Lodovic against each other. Act 3, Scene 2 shows Matthias and Lodovic fighting and ultimately dying at each other's hands, spurred on by Barabas from above. Farnese and Catherine arrive, mourning their dead sons and vowing revenge on whoever orchestrated the deaths. Act 3, Scene 3 Ithamor revels in the villainy. Abigail enters and Ithamor gleefully tells her how Barabas orchestrated the young man's deaths. Abigail asks Ithamor to summon a friar. Alone, Abigail bemoans her father's hard-hearted revenge, particularly Matthias's innocent death. She resolves to become a nun, seeing no love on earth. Friar Giacomo arrives and readmits her. Abigail swears not to betray her father's life. Act 3, Scene 4 opens with Barabas reading a letter from Abigail urging him to repent, making him fear she knows of his crimes. Ithamor confirms Abigail voluntarily re-entered the nunnery. Outraged, Barabas adopts Ithamor as his heir and plots to poison the nuns, including Abigail. He mixes a poisonous powder into a pot of rice and orders Ithamore to deliver it to the nunnery, promising him wealth. Barabas expresses spite towards his daughter, and in an aside plans to pay Ithamore with a vengeance too. Act 3, Scene 5 shows Farnese once again welcoming the Turkish Bashas to Malta with Martin del Bosco. Calapine arrives for the tribute, but Farnese strongly refuses to pay, stating no Maltese property will be taken. Calapine leaves with the threat of Calumet's return to destroy Malta. Farnese encourages his men to prepare for war. Act 3, Scene 6 presents Friar Giacomo and Bernardine in distress over the dying nuns. Abigail confesses to Friar Bernardine, admitting her torment over Matthias and Lodovic's deaths, orchestrated by her father. She has written down the details. Bernardine is vexed but assures her confessions are secret. Abigail dies. Bernardine regrets she died a virgin. Giacomo announces all nuns are dead and they set off to bury them, after which Bernardine plans to confront Barabas. Act 4, Scene 1 begins with Barabas and Ithamore gloating over the poisoned nuns, Barabas expressing particular satisfaction over his daughter's death. Friars Giacomo and Bernardine enter, hinting they know of Barabas' involvement in the deaths of Matthias and Lodovic. Barabas realizes Abigail confessed. He feels remorse and a desire to convert to Christianity, ostentatiously mentioning his large fortune, which he says he would donate to the monastery he joins. The friars immediately bicker over which monastery Barabas should choose. Barabas promises Giacomo a visit that night, then separates them, sending Bernardine with Ithamore. In an aside, Barabas reveals his plot to murder both friars, one for converting his daughter, the other for knowing too much. Ithamore returns stating Bernardine is asleep. Master and slave strangle Bernardine with a noose, prop his body up and wait for Giacomo. When Giacomo arrives, he strikes Bernardine's silent form, thinking he is forcing his way past. Barabas and Ithamore then accuse Giacomo of murder and lead him off to be tried. Act 4, Scene 2 has Pilia Borza telling Bellamira he delivered her letter to Ithamore. Ithamore enters, recounts Giacomo's calm behavior at the gallows, and arrives at Bellamira's house. Bellamira greets him warmly. Ithamore decides to steal money from Barabas to make himself presentable and agrees to write a blackmail letter for 300 crowns. Pilia Borgia delivers it, while Bellamira continues to seduce Ithamore, who dreams of marrying her. Pilia Borgia returns with the money, prompting Ithamore to immediately write a second letter demanding 500 crowns more, plus 100 for Pilia Borgia. Act 4, Scene 3 sees Barabas reading Ithamore's first blackmail letter, expressing outrage. Pilia Borgia enters with the second demand. Barabas invites Pilia Borgia to dinner, intending to poison him, but Pilia Borgia refuses until he gets the money. Barabas grudgingly pays, feeling more distress over Ithamore's betrayal than the financial loss. Alone, Barabas genuinely feels the betrayal's sting, but focuses on the money and the risk of exposure. He resolves to visit Ithamore in disguise to eliminate the blackmailers. Act 4, Scene 4 shows Bellamira and Ithamore drinking and exchanging loving words. Ithamore boasts of his evil deeds with Barabas, leading Bellamira and Pilia Borgia to plan further blackmail and then to betray him to the governor. Barabas enters disguised as a French musician. He offers the 3 poisoned flowers to smell. Pilia Borgia pays him to play the lute. Ithamore, unaware of Barabas' identity, rails against his master with false claims about his habits. Barabas leaves, feigning illness, perhaps disgusted by Ithamore's lies. The 3 agree to send a third letter demanding 1,000 crowns. Ithamore justifies their blackmail with an anti-Judaic sentiment: to undo a Jew is charity and not sin. Act 5, Scene 1 opens with Farnese and his knights, along with Martin del Bosco, fortifying Malta against the Turkish invasion. The Spanish navy is absent. Bellamira and Pilia Borgia enter, accusing Barabas of killing Lodovic, strangling a friar, and poisoning the nuns, including his own daughter. Farnese demands proof, and Bellamira betrays Ithamore. Officers apprehend Barabas and Ithamore. Ithamore readily confesses all of his and Barabas' crimes. Barabas tries to distract Farnese by pointing out Bellamira's and Pilia Borgia's unsavory characters, but to no avail. As he is taken away, Barabas expresses hope that the poisoned flowers with work anon. The flowers he gave them were poisoned. Catherine enters and discusses the events with Furness. An officer announces the deaths of all four, accusers and accused, due to Barabas's poison. Barabas's death, however, was unexpected. Del Bosco notes its strangeness, but Furness dismisses it as divine justice and orders Barabas's body thrown over the city walls. Alone outside the walls, Barabas surprisingly rises, revealing he took a sleepy drink to feign death. Awaiting the Turks, he vows vengeance on Furness. Calumet enters and finds the seemingly dead Barabas. Barabas, acting as a spy, informs the Turks how to enter the city and offers to lead 500 men to open the gates. Calumet promises to make Barabas governor if his plan succeeds. Act 5, Scene 2 sees Calumet gloating over his easy victory and immediately naming Barabas the new governor of Malta. Calumet leaves with his Vashas, leaving Barabas with the Turkish Janijaris. Barabas dismisses Furness and his officers, then delivers a monologue acknowledging Malta's hatred for him and the constant danger he faces. He questions the value of authority without friends or profit and resolves to make the best of the situation. He summons Furness and proposes a plan to recover Malta from the Turks. Furness, initially disbelieving, promises Barabas a great fortune for his service to Malta. Barabas, not trusting Furness, sends him to personally raise the money from the citizens. With this agreement, Barabas releases Furness and makes preparations to surprise the Turks, declaring, "He from whom my most advantage comes shall be my friend." This is the life we Jews are used to lead, and reason too for Christians do the like. Act 5, Scene 3 shows Calumet ordering repairs on the island and admiring its security. A messenger enters with an invitation from Barabas for a banquet before the Turks leave, offering a special pearl as a gift. Calumet hesitates to dine within Malta, but the messenger clarifies the banquet will be at monastery just outside town. Calumet accepts and retires to his tent. Act 5, Scene 4 finds Furness giving orders to his knights, instructing them not to move until they hear a musket shot. The knights swear allegiance and depart. Act 5, Scene 5 shows the messenger confirming Calumet's attendance in the upcoming event. Furness arrives with the 100,000 pounds he collected, but Barabas refuses to take the gold yet. Barabas then explains his elaborate contraption designed to obliterate Calumet's army. He tells Furness he only needs to cut a single rope at the right moment to eliminate Calumet and his attendants. Furness hides as the Turks approach. Barabas is left alone, boasting about his kingly kind of trade to purchase towns by treachery and sell them by deceit. Calumet arrives. Barabas invites him up the stairs, whereupon Furness emerges and cuts the rope, dropping Barabas into the cauldron below. A charge is sounded within. Barabas struggles, cries for help, and then, accepting death, openly admits his past crimes before dying with curses. Calumet attempts to leave, intending to persuade Turkey to give up its claim on Malta. But Furness reveals that Barabas's contraption has massacred all of Calumet's soldiers. Spain is once again Malta's protector. The play ends with Furness taking Calumet prisoner and praising heaven. Throughout all 5 acts, Marlowe maintains a delicate balance between tragedy and dark comedy, using Barabas's increasingly outrageous schemes to critique religious hypocrisy, political opportunism, and human greed. The structure shows a clear escalation from financial dispute to mass murder, with Barabas's final ironic death serving as the culmination of his own destructive philosophy. The play's ambiguous ending challenges the audience to consider whether Barabas is the cause of Malta's corruption or merely its most visible symptom. So this is it for today. We will continue to discuss the history of English literature. Please stay connected with the discourse. Thanks and regards.